All right, traders, welcome to today's recap. This is Christian Primehurst, Tropic Trade Group, and it is Tuesday, November 22nd. Strong participation day ahead of Fed minutes, as well as we've got some economics tomorrow, but overall, really nice performance, nice participation. Breadth was good today. Seasonality really playing out. This is generally a stronger seasonal week of the year right before Thanksgiving. Volume should be light tomorrow. Before we get into any more details, let's talk about the risk disclaimer, which is right in front of you. Everything that we're going through is for information purposes only. Let me just reduce this volume over here. There we go. All right, let's go through the raw numbers. Q's actually ended up outperforming today. How about that? Up 1.4%. They've been the laggard. Today they got some nice movement there, especially towards the end of the day. SPYs finished up 1.3%. Small caps also did well today, up 1.1%. TLT had a big rally day, as well as, which I should probably update this to show what bonds, both bonds did today, which rallied pretty hard, 1.4%, and bonds, sorry, I keep saying bonds, and I mean to say the dollar. The dollar sold off, giving back a lot of yesterday's gains. Remember, that was one of the things that kind of stood out yesterday was the stronger dollar, and that gave back a lot of those gains. We can actually start with that. I always like to start with the macro and get that out of the way. I think my overall thoughts on the dollar yesterday was that it was a pretty healthy bounce there, out of this consolidation. But we really didn't take back too much of this break. It is what it is. It's a breakdown, a break below the 50-day moving average. So, a nice bounce up and a move back down here and almost into this range. Let's do bonds. Let's show bonds as well. I usually use the 30-year bond futures because they are usually the most sensitive. Look at the volume today, by the way, in 30-year bond futures. There was a bond auction today, but we almost have a bond auction, almost every day these days. Nice move holding in there above the value area, above the 50-day moving average. I could probably talk about bonds for a couple of minutes. I won't, just so that you don't fall asleep in the video, but it's holding in here. My perspective is that we've had a nice move higher. We finally broke this downtrend. If we can just kind of chill out in here and maybe go sideways a little bit, as long as volatility doesn't really pick up like it was doing to the downside, then perhaps I don't have to show bonds every day in this video. Again, being an equity investor, because that's mainly what I am these days. I'm not trading bonds. I'm just basically using them to kind of help me figure out whether bonds and yields are going to have an impact on certain areas of the market, or whether you just don't have to worry about them. Remember, for a number of years, we didn't really have to worry about them because yields were almost close to zero. But we know across the yield curve, not only what the Fed is doing with short-term interest rates, but the long end of the curve too, rates are above 4%. So that's, a change in stance. And I talk about that enough in my video. So I told you I would keep it short with bonds, and I'm trying to do that. S&P futures. So we've been hanging around this range, hanging in, staying, one hint I thought the last couple of days is every time we dipped, we were still holding the 5-period moving average pretty decently, right? That kind of that gives you a sense of the short-term trend. There's a couple of days where we violated that a little bit. We actually saw the NYSE as well, when measuring advancing versus declining issues, start to bend a little bit to the downside. And we needed a really strong breath day for this to kind of straighten itself out a little bit, both in the under the hood indicators, as well as kind of saving these the short-term trend here. Again, 5-period moving average really helpful to and especially the closing price rather than the intraday price, to tell me what the short-term trend is doing, which is again holding above that 5-period moving average. Let's jump over to the 1-hour chart. Again, notice where we closed today, 4,008. This is, I think it's the highest close that we've had, even though we explored higher levels intraday. This looks like the highest close in S&P futures. Notice that we made it all the way through this week's value area too in S&P futures. So all the way to 4,007. Again, you know, what is tomorrow going to bring? Well, I don't have a crystal ball for tomorrow, you know, and I can't predict what prices are going to do the next day, but I know that this was a pretty healthy move. And if you've been adding into some of this, you know, chop and back and forth action, you know, I was a net seller today. I took a lot of risk off. Being that we have some economics tomorrow, being that we rallied all the way to the top of value, could be a place for a little bit of digestion. And we'll just have to see what comes out of the Fed minutes, right? Probably my guess for the Fed minutes is more of the same, dialing down expectations of, you know, changing the interest rate narrative in terms of where they're going to stop raising interest rates. I don't think that they want to, personally, I don't think they want to make that commitment now when we're going to have another set of inflation data that comes out right before the next Fed meeting. So I think they're going to wait. You know, they don't want to go back and forth with this. They want to see, you know, inflation really to start going down. Whether or not that can be accomplished is a whole nother thing. I'm just speaking in perspective of what I think that we're going to see from the Fed minutes. And I don't think it's going to be anything all that positive. So if we get a little bit of volatility, you know, perhaps I can add some of this risk back. So where do we want to start with in terms of, well, I stopped with the S&P futures. Let's also go to the NASDAQ, which was stronger. You know, this could still be a catch-up trade. We might see NASDAQ outperform a little bit. It's been such an underperformer as of late, right? On the daily chart, we did find support where we needed to, right? And I even sent that out in a couple Twitter posts saying, hey, we're into support. We're going to really need to bounce here. Well, you got to bounce. And I think that's a bullish engulfing for the day. So maybe this gets back into somewhere into this range. Again, I could tell you where resistance is going to be, you know, and I'll tell you right off the bat, I didn't think that we were going to be able to get into the value area today, but we did, and we kept going. So really, we don't have any major resistance till a late, 11,895, or if you want to level in the Qs, the Qs support is going to be 283.44, 289. 289 is your resistance on the 1 hour chart. All right. So, you know, this could by chance have a ways to go. Small caps also did make it into the value area. Again, they did not, they were up about 1.1%. They're still hanging a little bit below the 200-day moving average. One thing, again, that I've been pointing out is the difference right now between equally weighted ETFs as well as market versus market cap ETFs. For example, here's S&P, right? Sitting below the 200-day moving average. What about RSP? Same components in the S&P 500, but equally weighted and over the 200-day moving average. Also, the Dow, look at what the Dow is doing, right? You get very little, you know, again, I talk about this to death because everybody talked about, oh, look at how the 200-day moving average, it got rejected there. Really don't hear too many people talking about how strong the Dow has been, right? Now over decently, way over the 200-day moving average. And perhaps this VPOC gets taken out up at 245. That's the next area that I would really be focused to. Maybe a little bit of resistance here, but I think that we're headed towards this VPOC up at right around 346. All right. Just to kind of recap the price action, you know, and this is why it, you know, being patient kind of helps a little bit. Once again, you know, and by the way, there was a huge MOC today. Market on close today was, I think, $3.3 billion from what I heard. And it's amazing that you're still getting the opportunity. Like, look at today's open, right? A little bit of a gap up into today's open, immediately sold, right? So we're seeing more, you know, more of these type of opens where if S&P futures or whether it doesn't matter if it's S&P or NASDAQ futures, if they're up a little bit, there's sellers that are bringing this thing down. And they attempted to do it today. And we went right into top of value support, and we began to basically trend for the rest of the day. Very nice to see that. But, you know, I would be surprised if we get more of this. You know, by chance, if S&P futures are up overnight and make it through the slew of economic data that we have around 8:30 tomorrow, you know, you might get another chance where this market kind of sells off on the open again. And you could get involved, you know, 15 minutes or half an hour after the open, provided that, you know, buyers kind of step into that. So tomorrow we do get durable goods, capital goods, initial jobless claim. Again, it's a holiday shortened week, so they throw a lot of the economics into one day. You also get University of Michigan sentiment. That's at 10 o'clock tomorrow, and then the Fed minutes will be at 2 o'clock tomorrow. Okay, a couple of things, really interesting, this move in crude that happened, and the move in XLE. If we go to the 1 hour chart, you're going to see exactly what happened here. Price action was weak. There was this report that wasn't a real report yesterday. Amazing that we come down and we take out this virgin point of control. Remember, we're using volume at price here. The market always seems to, when you're trading out of a range, more often than not, it likes to find an area where there's a high amount of buyers and sellers. And, the way that we're calculating this out, this was perfect, touches this and then begins to rebound. Slight hesitation with this candle at the bottom of value, right? That was at 91.70. I also tweeted this out earlier. Notice that we had no problem getting through this, and we're up at the point of control. Really nice performance for XLE. Let's back this out and look at the daily chart. The takeaway here is that, once again, buyers are coming into weakness, right? There was a really nice hammer bar yesterday, closing at the 20-day moving average, and this got bought up, and we're basically back into this range. Again, I could talk about energy for a while, but what I think is most impressive is the refiners, right? MPC, remember, had great earnings a couple of weeks back. This has been the leader. I mean, look at this thing blast off, up 5%, taking out the highs. But if you go through the rest of the refiners, they're all strong, right? This is HF Sinclair, right? That used to be the old Holly Frontier. Ticker symbol Dino, out to new highs there. The one that's lagging a little bit is Valero, which is still very, very strong and a strong looking chart, because that one's not quite out to new highs. And then I'm missing one too, which is PSX, right? Very strong. A couple of the coal plays did pretty well today too. BTU, which we know has a big short interest. I like the CEIX, right? This just snuck into the CEIX. This just stuck into the value area today, or excuse me, yesterday, and moved back up, was up 5%, even though it finished off the highs. But again, I could spend another 10 minutes here on energy names. I think an easy way, if you're not really a specialist in energy, is just to play XLE. Why? Because it's got all the companies that you need in it, and it's got the leaders in there. There's Chevron, Exxon, Conoco. Those are the biggest weights in this ETF. All right, so that is just something that is the first thing I wanted to go over. And then metals and mining, right, which actually showed some strength here, kind of came back into the 20-day moving average. This was something that why is this? What's going on here? I'll just pause this video for 1 second, guys. All right, sorry about that. Just had a little bit of a snafu on my end. So metals and mining, they were also strong. Copper finally rallied a little bit. I could go through this group too, but as you could see, it was pretty strong. A name that we saw call buying in, which is Rare, is a name that works on rare earth materials, which is MP. I actually took this trade today, even though the stock is in a downtrend. I took a target or two as this name moved throughout the value area. Other names that I participated in, the semiconductors continue to show some strength. They did hit a little bit of resistance there at 222.87, but again, nice to see, up 2.9%. That's much better performance. NVIDIA came to life today. I remember they had earnings about a week ago, and they've kind of been pushing back a little bit. They've came in and found the 20-day moving average. This was a name I was talking about in the room yesterday, and this pushed back pretty nicely. Taiwan Semi was a name that I got long last week. I was able to take a target in this. Also, I knew I forgot one group. The steel names, again, cheap, pretty cheap group in terms of valuation. That's what the market likes right now. Value is being favored over growth. Steel Dynamics, as well as Nucor, which is a name that I sent out yesterday, up another 2% after a big move yesterday. I think we took out a 1 hour Virgin point of control in here. We did, but it's managing to stay above. Other trades that I put on, a couple new ones yesterday. AEHR, which I just decided to take off in today's strength, up 6.5%, almost back out to 52-week highs. I took my profits right here, right around 25.70 for the day. Right, 25.70, that was close enough. SMCI, which I love to buy on dips, also had a nice day, up 4.5%. Now this is also hitting a little bit of short-term resistance at 87. So I took some profits in this today to 87.20 versus my my entry price yesterday. Monster Beverage, I put this in the Substack report that I wrote about yesterday. I closed this position out today. Again, I was just all about selling into strength today. Just to kind of the way that this market has been when we've got a strong day like this, I'm usually a seller. Right, a couple other trades too. Bristol Myers decided to sell that one too. Pharma has been very strong today. It actually reversed on the day. So again, with these names, just like anything else, when the whole group is strong like this, I tend to take profits. Right, the pharma group has been very strong, so I was a seller into that. Only thing that I really, JP Morgan too, the banks have been doing well. This had a nice move. I think JP Morgan can get up to, it could rally up another couple dollars up to 136.78, but I didn't need to get that today and kind of left that for tomorrow because I ended up selling that too at the end of the day. So if you didn't figure out that theme by now, I was a net seller into today's strength. Took a lot of newer trades off, and are leaving myself into a nice position in terms of risk management today with for tomorrow with a whole bunch of economics that we're going to get. All right, guys, have a great night. See you tomorrow.